Welcome back to another episode of Average Boston Sports. It has been a rough Monday after that Patriots game, 31-17. Miami comes out with the win. You know, you got to expect that Miami's going to come in here, get the job done, and, take advantage of this Patriots team that's just, injury riddled. And I know the Miami came into this game with a weak offensive line. That didn't show as much as we wanted it to. And the Patriots lose again. The biggest statistical performances on offense, obviously Mac Jones, 19 of 29, 2 touchdowns and 1 horrible interception that basically ruined the entire flow of that first half as we had a chance to go into that halftime with a tie ball game. And flips the field, Jalen Ramsey gets the pick, horrible throw. Ramondre Stevenson, 10 carries, 39 yards. What are we doing? We got to get that guy the ball. I mean, he's clearly our best offensive player, and we got to find a way to get him the ball. 10 carries, 39 yards. That is unacceptable. Kendrick Bourne, 3 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. He's been serviceable for us this year. Our best pass catcher, and no complaints from him. And Juju Poop Scooper.
It stinks that he's done for the year now.
Yeah, torn ACL. But prayers up to him.
Yeah.
I hope for a speedy recovery, and I hope that the Patriots retain him and, continue to involve him in future plans because I believe he could be a good second, third option on a team.
And to be honest, he's one of the only guys on this team that has any sort of personality.
Yeah.
Like, going back to the days of Brady and Gronk and Edelman, like, all those guys had a personality. There's, no one on this team besides Kendrick Bourne that brings any, energy or anything to the team.
And that was Matthew Judon before his injury.
Yes.
It seemed like he was the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Marcus Smart role. We're crossing sports here, but the Marcus Smart role for that Patriots team, he goes down with a bicep injury. Kendrick Bourne has been nothing but, showing great leadership. On a losing team, he goes out there, good attitude, gives good answers post-game, and you can't ask for anything more from him on this team.
Definitely not.
And obviously, another touchdown, Juju Poop Scooper, 1 catch, 3 yards. He did something. I was screaming at the TV when it happened. He did something!
He was, basically falling into the end zone. His legs were not working.
He was wide open. He couldn't have been more wide open, and I was fully expecting him to drop that 4th down catch.
Yeah.
And it was a huge play. I'll give him that. We needed to convert that to give us any chance in that game. Good play by him, but there's a reason that he didn't get into that game until later. The Patriots seemed to pick the other receivers over him, even though he is our highest paid receiver on the team. The defense was, mediocre as it's been. Kyle Duggar had a good game, 1 pick, 2 pass breakups, and a sack. Christian Barmore got him with their sack, and Jelani Tavai was nowhere to be seen this week. He's been, the guy I've been hyping up for the past couple weeks. He's been having, good run stops, good solo field tackles. Feels like the only guy I trust to make a solo field tackle on this team. And he was nowhere to be found in this game, unfortunately. And that's where the Patriots stand after Sunday. My opening take after this game, clearly after last week, you can see in the episode, the horrible audio episode. Sorry for you guys. We had to Zoom that week, but we are correcting the audio. We're correcting the cameras. We're doing everything we can. We're learning along the way. Thank you for being there with us. But the Patriots last week against Buffalo, they showed us a couple signs. They showed us hey, there's a chance that we flip this team around, maybe make a push for the playoffs. That's not even what I was hoping for. I was just hoping for a competitive season.
A watchable product.
A watchable product. Maybe you go into Miami and lose by 7. You lose on, another potential game-winning drive that Mac Jones chokes away. I've been fine with that. But you lose any chance of winning that ball game. We're sitting here at 2-6. And it is finally time, for the first time in Bill Belichick's managerial career in New England, he should be selling at this trade deadline. Anthony, I want to hear your thoughts about that and where you see the Patriots moving forward into the future.
Yeah, I think there's no way that you can go into the next 8 games of the schedule or 10 games and think that they have a fighter's chance at making any moves for the playoffs. They caught the Bills at the right time last week. You have to give them credit. They put together a good game plan, and Mac played well. Everyone played well. But I think we now know that was the outlier. That is not what this team is. They just happened to play well 1 week, and the Bills played bad 1 week. For the people that are still holding out hope, it's time to give up. It's time to give up.
He's talking to me.
And sell. It is time to sell.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not sure how much you can actually sell. And I think we're going to talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
But I would be on the phones. I would be on the phones constantly trying to get as much as you can for whatever veterans that we have that are still healthy on this team.
Mm-hmm. And so we go into this week as the trade deadline week in the NFL. It is officially at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And so there's not a lot of time for New England to make moves. But, I mean, you got to think that tomorrow there's going to be something. There's got to be some player on this team that we can ship out to a playoff contender and maybe get a couple late round picks, maybe move off of a couple bad contracts, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, and you never know. You never know if you can package draft picks with Juju Smith-Schuster just to get him out of here. Because one, it seems like it's been a cancer for the team. You see a guy get paid that much, he brought in and exchanged basically for Jacoby Myers, and Jacoby Myers did everything right. Practiced hard every single day. There was no questions about him whatsoever.
He was an ultimate Patriot.
Ultimate Patriot. And we let him go for this guy. He comes in and we're expecting him to embrace that culture, step up as a leader, making that type of money. It just hasn't happened.
For a guy that does not have a good track record of being a leader in the past.
No. And so we're going to look into who should be dealt and who actually has any value at the line and being dealt. My first trade target for New England would definitely be to get rid of Kyle Duggar. So Kyle Duggar this year has had a lot of problems guarding the deep quarter of the field. He is not a coverage safety. We didn't draft him to be a coverage safety. We drafted him to be a hybrid run-stopping safety who could play smart, keep the defense in front of him and, not be the perfect coverage guy, but at least, be serviceable in that aspect. He hasn't been that. And coming off of his best week he's had this season, I think that it's time to finally get what we can get for him. I see the value at a 4th or 5th round pick, and we exchange Duggar for that, and we don't have to commit to a long-term deal with him because I don't think that's a guy that I want in the future plans, because it seems like we're going to have to overpay to keep him around. If you're a losing team and you got to convince a guy to stay for another 4 years, most guys aren't going to be like, oh, okay, I'll just stay on a bad team even though I could go to the way better team and make the same amount of money. No, New England's going to have to overpay to keep their guys. I don't want them to do that. That's going to keep them mediocre, so it's time to get rid of guys like that.
And the franchise tag for strong safeties, I believe, is upwards of like 18 mil.
Okay.
So, thanks to Derwin James
and there's
in LA. So,
and there are some concerns about the amount of safeties that are available this year in free agency. I was looking earlier, and not a lot of good names, a lot of older, like dwindling careers that are going to be on the free agent market. So if you're going to fill in that strong safety role, I would love Jabril Peppers to step right into that.
Same thing.
Jabril Peppers steps in there. You got Jalen Mills to fill the free safety spot till the end of the season, because the season's already we're throwing it out at this point. Yeah. So you just let that ride, and then during the draft, you go get a ball-hawking free safety, and you fill that role.
Yeah.
And so
the safety position is definitely missing Devin McCourty.
100%. That is one of the biggest problems that we've had. It's been, we don't have a guy that can, make a big play in coverage, get a turnover, and, start giving us good field position for Mac Jones to be able to make something out of a short field instead of being, within the 5-yard line and punting, receiving the punts,
To be fair, though, I think it would have been easier to kind of fill that McCourty role by committee if you didn't lose Marcus Jones and Jack Jones and Jonathan Jones for most of the season.
Yeah.
Like, they've just been having to plug bodies in. Like, Jalen Mills has been having to cover at corner, so the injury bug has hit the secondary.
100%, and I'm not blaming the secondary problems on anybody, and no coaches, no players,
They've done well for what they have.
Exactly, and you got Sean Wade out there.
Yeah,
you playing corner for you, starting corner for you, and that is definitely a problem. You can't have that. The secondary is definitely going to need to be revamped this offseason, whether it's the weird contract with Jonathan Jones. He's expecting a $12 million cap hit this year. So maybe move off of him, because he's not that type of guy. No. He's not a guy you want to, commit $12 million to.
And I think we all know Marcus Jones, he's an incredible special teamer. As an actual corner,
Yeah, and I think the fans are skewed when they talk about Marcus Jones because you see the offensive plays.
Yes.
Like on our team last year who had no offensive playmakers, we had to call in the corner to come in and make the only good plays we had the entire year.
Yeah.
So I know you guys saw those and you're like, wow, like Marcus Jones, he has some potential. Yeah, but not as a corner. He's too small. He has bad instincts. He's fast, but he can't stay with the top dogs. He can't stay with the fastest receivers in the league.
No.
And so that speed is kind of useless.
But he's a great special teamer.
Special teamer.
Keep him there.
Oh, Bill loves his special teamers. He'll be there for
yeah.
the next 12 years probably playing special teams.
He'll get $40 million.
Yep.
To just return punts. That actually he'll just fair catch in the back of the end zone.
Exactly. And so that's my first trade target. Second trade target I have to give away is Josh Uche. He's going into free agency this year. He's dealt with a foot injury the entire year. When he's healthy, he's shown to be a serviceable pass rusher. And a team looking for a playoff push, getting some extra beef on that defensive line is going to be crucial for some teams. So maybe someone overpays for Josh Uche just to come in and fill a role, fill it so that they can make a playoff push, and maybe that's the guy they need to make that playoff push.
I think that one's the most realistic out of any of them. And one team that I was thinking could have been the Seahawks, but they went out and got Leonard Williams today from the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they could maybe get a similar return for Uche? I think it was a third and a fifth.
A third and a fifth?
For Leonard Williams.
So Leonard Williams has been, I believe, a Pro Bowler before. And I think he, obviously a high draft pick, didn't really work out in the way that, they were expecting. But he's been very good for the Giants, and him going to Seattle is a big move for Seattle at 6-2 right now, making a playoff push. Mm-hmm. And I think that Uche is along that level, but I don't know if he's going to merit the type of compensation just because he's not as big a name as Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams he's a big name in the NFL.
But I also think that Uche still being young versus Leonard Williams he's up there in age. Mm-hmm. I think even though he's still a free agent, the possibility of maybe it becoming a long-term agreement, I think that could get you something. And
he's expected market value at 3 years, $25 million. So that is manageable this offseason. That is going to be a very top commodity amongst the NFL, I believe. GMs love a cheap young pass rusher who maybe wasn't getting the right stunts called, maybe wasn't, maybe he was the first option on a bad team and he was getting, a couple double teams, maybe drawing the best offensive lineman to guard him. And now he comes into another team, maybe he's just the third down pass rusher that comes in and he's rested and he can, come and make a play for you. So I think that is very valuable to a lot of teams. I think that a lot of teams are going to want that 3 year, $25 million to be locked up for them. Mm-hmm. And so if you trade for him right now, you'll be able to not only convince him that this is a good organization to stand. We're nothing like New England. I feel like a lot of teams can say that and bring a lot of happiness and joy to some players because right now it looks like everyone is depressed and hates their life. Yep. And that's why I'm not enjoying watching this Patriots team. If it was a bunch of guys who were trying their hardest, doing everything the right way and things weren't falling in the right way, okay, that's fine. Yep. But it seems like these guys don't want to play, and I don't blame them. I really don't.
No, I don't blame them either.
Obviously, next on my trade target list is us begging a team to take Juju Smith-Schuster off our hands. There's desperate teams out there for receivers. Kansas City might, want Juju back this year because maybe they're thinking, oh, he was a big part of our Super Bowl run last year. Right now, we just lost to Denver. And we haven't lost to Denver in 16 games.
Yeah.
So
there's already some, chemistry between Mahomes and Juju. Mm-hmm. So good luck with that knee.
No, exactly. Good luck with that knee. And I would be able to package Juju and a fourth for a 7th round pick just to get rid of the contract.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be very important that the Patriots clear house as much as possible this offseason, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And so you've got to get rid of guys like Juju and Devontae Parker, who's next on the list. I won't go too deep into him. It's the same kind of deal. I feel like you could not have to package a draft pick with Devontae Parker. Yeah. I feel like you could just get a 7th for him. Because
6 or 7.
It's the same type of contract, but he obviously has shown a bit more this year than Juju has. It's not that hard to show a little bit more than what he's shown this year. But Parker looked pretty good in the Miami game. He had a couple good catches, and I think that if you're going to sell him and he's not in your future plans, it's got to be at the deadline right now.
Yep.
And so that is another trade target. And lastly, unfortunately, my favorite Patriot, I think it's time to move on from Ramondre Stevenson.
Really?
Because look at this. He's 25 years old, which you say that, and well, you're 23 now, I'm 22,
Yep.
and we're like, oh, that's so old, but like, he's not that old. But for a running back, I think that, you know, he's probably got 2 or 3 good years left in him. And if Ramondre Stevenson is getting 10 carries for 39 yards in your offense right now, you're playing from behind way too much. You're not using him like you should be using him. And a team like the Rams right now, who are like starting Darrell Henderson off the couch right now, I feel like if they found a way to get Ramondre Stevenson to LA, I don't know how many draft picks they have. They probably have like 2 in the next 10 years.
They got rid of all
of them. So I don't know what we could get for him. I value him as around a 3rd round pick.
Okay.
But I think it's time to, you know, free him from this whole entire shit show that the Patriots are.
I disagree only because I think when you start giving away guys like that, like then that's just another position that they need to somehow find. Like it seems like they've stumbled upon one good offensive weapon in Ramondre Stevenson. Like you get rid of him, then it's like, okay, in addition to the wide receivers and the O-line and the quarterback now we also have to get a running back. And it's like, you have nowhere. Like at least running back right now is a position that you know, like if we can get the offensive line working well, we have a guy that can be really effective.
And I see what you're saying there. I do agree that Ramondre Stevenson is by far our best offensive player, and he definitely should merit, you know, the ability to be comfortable at the trade deadline and not be dealt because of what he's done. He's one of the only bright spots on this offense. But I just think that running back is such an interchangeable position. I know we've been saying that, and I know that a lot of people are starting to underrate the value of a good running back.
Yeah.
But you get a 3rd round pick for Ramondre Stevenson, I would not be too upset because that could flip into a guy that you could draft. Miami just got Achane in the 4th round. You get a guy like that. I feel like Bill has good instincts when drafting running backs. I trust him when drafting running backs. I know the Sony Michel thing, a lot of people are iffy on that, but that man won us a Super Bowl. That man took over in that playoff run. And
he did draft Ramondre. Damian
Harris was serviceable. Stephen Ridley back in the day was a great late round pick for them. Shane Vereen, another guy, James White. We've always had pretty serviceable running backs in New England. So I am not scared about the next running back coming in. I think that what is more important is committing to getting draft picks to revamp the offensive line and to potentially get a new leader at quarterback. And if you're not willing to give up Ramondre Stevenson or guys that like have any value around this trade deadline, what are we doing? Like we don't have many players that are valuable. And if we can get as many draft picks as we can and just kind of go all young and try to, you know, flip this thing around as quickly as possible because Bill only has maybe 1-2 years left, if he stays. And so I think it's very urgent that we trade Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay, let me ask you one. I don't know if you were going to get to this player.
Okay.
With Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles, unfortunately, yesterday. Prayers up to Kirk Cousins.
I love Kirk, man.
I know.
It
just stinks.
You see the Netflix documentary, and
he was having such a good year.
Such a good year, underrated year too.
He was probably going to be he could have been an all-pro this year, to be honest. He was doing this without Justin Jefferson.
And so of all of the people that were like, oh, Kirk Cousins is only doing good because of Justin Jefferson, he has shown in the past 2, well, not yesterday, but he's shown in the past. He showed in that one game without Justin Jefferson that they can win games with Kirk Cousins as their guy, and Jordan Addison and
He's an
KJ
elevator. He brings guys up.
Exactly. And Mac Jones does not have that in him. I totally agree. I was going to bring up Kirk Cousins in our free agency evaluation. He is estimated at $30 million coming into this free agency year.
I'm gonna guess that's gonna go down.
Well, it's 40 now, so I'm saying that it's gonna go down to 30 with the Achilles.
You think only 30?
I think so.
For how many years?
I would say I would commit 2 years. 2 years, $60 million, because he signed a
2 years, 60. So you said 30 annually.
30 annually, 2 years, $60 million total, because he signed that 3-year, $90 million contract in Minnesota. back when he was,
Mhm.
going into his prime and, looking great in Washington. And the Vikings needed a quarterback, so they committed $90 million guaranteed to this guy, and he's done well for them. And he, I think, merits $30 million because you got to look at what the other guys are making. Daniel Jones, $40 million.
Well, that was a mistake.
And that was a mistake.
That was a
but
mistake.
if you commit $60 million to a guy who's at the end of his career, even if it doesn't work out next year, even if you give him the entire season and it's a shit show,
Mhm.
that's something you can move off of. And if you can't move off of it, at least next year it's off the books.
Yeah.
So I think you take a shot on a guy like that, 100%. Because for one, I think it's 100% guaranteed we bring a veteran quarterback in this offseason. And if you look at who's available right now, I swear to God, if New England brings in Jacoby Brissett or Marcus Mariota or one of these guys...
I'll drop a name when we get to that.
All right. And I'm just going to be pissed off about that. So those are...
Well, wait. So if the Vikings called up and said, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick for Mac Jones, do you do it?
In a heartbeat. Why the hell wouldn't I do that?
What about a 4th? Would you give him up for a 4th?
So this is easy for me to say because I don't have a 1st-round pick and millions of dollars invested into Mac Jones. But from Robert Kraft's position, no. A 4th-round pick for, you've been preaching all offseason that this is the guy. He's making turns. He's looking good in the offseason. It's his team. We're going to build it around him, blah, 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 blah. And then in the middle of the season, you just trade him for a 4th-round pick. You know how bad that looks?
It does look bad.
That looks really bad. And I personally would love to get rid of Mac Jones and just get this monkey off the Patriots fans' back. I'll drive him to Minnesota. I will ski him to Minnesota.
I'll put him on my back.
Yeah.
And I will walk through the snow.
I'll give him the $12 that's in my bank account right now if I can go to Minnesota. I would literally, if it was an option, I would trade Mac Jones for a 6th-round pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because you got to get that monkey off our back, and I want to see Will Grier play. I want to see Bailey Zappi get play if it's not Will Grier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so I want change on this team, and I don't want to keep seeing the same product every single week. Mac Jones always has 2 good touchdown drives, and then he always ruins it with 2 horrible turnover drives. And so if you're going to be a guy like Mac Jones with no physical tools, you need to limit the turnovers. He's not limiting the turnovers. He is a complete wash of a quarterback right now. And Zach Wilson, we were clowning New York at the beginning of the year. Oh my God, they are screwed this year without Aaron Rodgers. Thank God I'm not a Jets fan. Oh my God. 2 plays, 55 yards, 24 seconds. Could Mac Jones ever do that? And to throw on the run, sidearm right to Lazard for the first, that is never going to be a play that Mac Jones can ever make. And it's
never.
You can cement that.
Mm-hmm.
But can Zach Wilson work on his decision making and his mechanics and learn from Aaron Rodgers a little bit more? Hell yeah.
Yep.
So that looks like a way more interesting situation than Mac Jones, and everybody was clowning that situation before. So what are we? If Zach Wilson's out there leading game-winning drives, I know it's against freaking one of the Sopranos, the guy starting for the Giants. Yeah. And so, that was a horrible game. He had 2 bad fumbles, but when it mattered most, he came in and he got his team into a position to tie the game, and then later in overtime, he won that game. Mm-hmm. I'm taking Zach Wilson over Mac Jones right now, any day of the week. If you could go to New York and say, hey, you guys having problems with the turnovers, but you want Mac Jones? We'll give you Mac Jones for Zach. They would say no. They would say no right now. Yep. With the fact that he's making double what Mac Jones makes, and the fact that they won't take Mac Jones over Zach Wilson says a lot about Mac Jones. And so, I don't see a situation where Mac Jones is traded because he was on my list of who we must keep. And I would understand if they want to just give him the rest of the year and just play it out. And, at the end of the year, move on from it. That's what I want. I don't think that we need to trade him in the offseason to a team that, because there's no real, desperate quarterback team. I don't think Minnesota is going to be desperate.
Right now? You don't think they're desperate?
I don't think so, because
they're 4-4.
They're 4-4.
They're in the hunt.
And they're in the hunt, and there are 7 playoff teams, so it's a way bigger chance that you can get in as the wild card. But I think Minnesota is realizing that they don't have a chance of winning the Super Bowl. If they were like a powerhouse defense with Justin Jefferson's not hurt and their offensive line's looking good and Kirk Cousins was, maybe if they were like 6-2 right now, and you're looking at a powerhouse team that just lost their quarterback, then yeah, he steps in there and he can provide serviceable quarterback play till the end of the season. But I don't think that Minnesota is looking to be a middling team. I think that if I was them, they know they're going to move off of Kirk Cousins, so maybe just forfeit the year, give the guy their backup right now, Hall from BYU. They give him
that's who's their backup? I thought it was Mullins.
So
is he there too?
I think Nick Mullins is there, but it's also that Hall kid from BYU, and I think a lot of the Minnesota fans want him to start. Yeah, because he just his physical tools jump out. He's very bad decision maker. I don't think it would be in the best interests for that style of team to start him, but I just think that Minnesota is, even though they're 4-4, they're kind of in the same boat as us. So making a move for Mac Jones just doesn't make sense for me for them.
Bill Belichick, go get Justin Jefferson.
Oh my God. The Patriots fan, fuck you, Anthony. Patriots fans, don't listen to this clown, because you know what? We're never going to trade for a big time receiver. No. We're never going to pay for one. And Anthony,
he's going to have to fall in your lap.
Yeah.
In the 7th round.
Exactly. And so trade deadline passes tomorrow. Most likely, we're not going to do anything because we're morons, and we're going to end up, staying pat, not getting any extra draft picks, and just riding this mediocre season out. And I wanted to ask you, Anthony.
Okay.
Patriots going into next offseason, which is what we have to look at this point. $97 million in cap space. November. It's not even November, and we're talking about the offseason. I was waiting so long for this Patriots season, and it's already over.
Yeah.
It's already over, and honestly, when your favorite team is out of it, we talk about this all the time. Like, the Patriots have never been bad enough to where they're out of it so early. At least, in the Cam Newton years and even the Mac Jones years, we had a fighting chance until the end. Last year, that horrible team, Matt Patricia running the offense, we had a chance in the last game of the season to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now we are 2-6. We've won 2 close division games that, division games are, at this point, are a toss-up. And so, yeah, you can sneak out a couple division games, but we could very easily be 0-8 as we could be 2-6, and I know everyone blah, 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 anything can happen. But we got $97 million in cap space. We got the most cap space in the NFL coming up for the worst team in the AFC. We need to do a complete flip. Anthony, what do you think our biggest needs going into the offseason? And I want to hear your take. You said a very interesting take about the draft, and if we were at the top of the draft, who you would select. And so I'm going to give you the keys. Let's hear it.
At the moment,
the
Patriots are currently positioned, I believe, at 5th pick, but they probably will be going up by the end of the season. So I would take Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 3. And that is very high for a wide receiver. But that is a guy that can be a game changer. He can be a Justin Jefferson-like player. And those guys, you can't get those guys in free agency. You're going to either
not this year.
But those guys never reach free agency.
No, yeah.
They are locked up.
For a reason.
Because teams know how valuable they are.
Yeah. I mean, so look at the top of every division and look at who is starting at receiver for those teams.
And the Eagles, A.J. Brown has 125 yards in 7 straight games, and they've won all 7.
Does Mac Jones even have 125 yards in 7 passing games? Oh my God! If A.J. Brown could just, if we had A.J. Brown and
Tyreek Hill, look what he did to us yesterday, 100 yards. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both had 100 yards yesterday. We have not had one this season. We have not had one 100-yard receiver in a game this season.
And we won't.
And we won't. We won't.
Unless Pharaoh Brown gets released.
Honestly.
Dude, he's been playing really good.
I would trade Mike Gesicki at this point.
Yeah.
And rock with Hunter Henry and Pharaoh Brown.
100%.
But, yeah, I would draft Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 1st round.
Okay.
I would then, in the draft, look to maybe if we can trade Uche or Kyle Duggar for one of these third-round picks, package up, a third, 2/3 and a second next year or something, move up to the back of the first round, and take one. I know you're not a big fan of him. Maybe J.J. McCarthy of Michigan. Maybe.
I saw some good clips of him this week. I'm not going to lie. I saw some good clips, but
Or one of, he doesn't have to be him. It can be one of, if, I don't know exactly where Bo Nix is expected to fall. If he's a first rounder,
he's
a fringe.
He's like a 12th year senior at this point, and he is the best player in the nation right now. But when you're in the NFL, you clearly draft off of potential, and we saw that with guys like Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson had a horrible stint in college and was still picked 4th overall, and in the games he's played, he's been electric. And so you can't look at like Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy. They got really good teams around them, and we made that mistake with Mac Jones, drafting a guy who can just find the open receiver in a good offense. We don't have a good offense. We need a guy who can create in a bad offense, and those are the guys that tend to be drafted higher in the draft, and I hope that we don't get gypped into taking one of these Power 5 conference quarterbacks who just have a bunch of talent around them.
Yeah. But yeah, I would look to getting one of those tight end or quarterbacks either in the late first round or early second, and then you got to just go out there in free agency and you have to try and find whoever you think could. If they're a guard that can play tackle, if they're a center that can play tackle,
no more guards.
If they're a defensive end that can play tackle, like someone to play tackle. I want Michael Wenu staying at right tackle. I'm done with Trent Brown after this season.
Okay.
I'm ready to move off of him and find another solution because he's either hurt, overweight, not engaged. It's always something.
He's also expected $15 million per this year.
No way.
Yeah, 15.
No way.
Based off of these this.
No, I believe that, but I'm just saying there's no way I would pay it.
No, yeah, I know, and so there's a lot of there. If you look on the free agent tracker for offensive linemen, there are a ton of offensive linemen in free agency, and it's going to be a big free agency for offensive linemen. A lot of teams are in need. There's only like 3 or 4 good offensive lines in the NFL right now. It seems like it's dwindling position, and you got to get 5 good guys to be a complete offensive line because it only takes 1 guy to mess up for it to be a sack. And so you got to get 5 serviceable guys. Right now, I think we have 0 serviceable guys. And Michael Wenu, he's played okay at the right tackle spot, but we've seen flashes of him being mediocre as well.
Yeah.
And so it's not a given that he's going to be able to start for us. And I completely want to revamp the offensive line this year. And the free agent market looks like pretty good. I know guys like Tyron Smith, he's 33, but offensive linemen, they have a long longevity in the NFL. Not a lot of moving for them. And he's dealt with some injuries and he's been injury prone. But if we could throw a 2-year, $40 million contract at a Tyron Smith.
Do it.
And do it in a heartbeat because it's way better than Trent Brown's giving you right now. And it's a guy that can come in, be a leader in the offensive line, and the guys you draft can learn behind him.
But what if Ferdarian Lowe?
Oh my God.
Or Tyrone Wheatley. Or Calvin Anderson. What are those guys?
Oh my God.
Maybe they
those guys
can turn it around.
I heard Walmart's hiring down the street. They should fucking go there because I can't watch another fucking spin around block by any of those guys.
It's on the carousel.
Yeah,
there
you're not supposed to see your quarterback all game. Don't look at him. You don't look at him at all. And you guys are like fucking like you have a crush on the guy. You're fucking staring at Mac Jones. He's not that attractive. He's not that attractive a guy. Like
if it's Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tom Brady. You gotta take a look sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that's greatness. But like if fucking Mac Jones. Another guy, Andres Pete, he's a guard in New Orleans, and I think he's a guy that either you could flip to tackle and give him a big contract or keep him at guard and he could be serviceable, but we're not going to flip this team into a playoff contender unless we make big moves like that. And so, Bill Belichick, if you are coming back for next year, I know 100% you're not looking to, build for the future and, draft these players for future development. You're going to be drafting players and signing players for playing now, winning now. You're not going to want to go into your last year and
just the record.
He wants the record. It's clear. Bill Belichick is one of the biggest egos in football, and that's what's made him so good. But you got to take and give with that. And what we're giving right now is the fact that we have so much cap space, and we need to trust Bill Belichick to try and one last time revamp this team, revamp this offensive line, and hopefully next year we go in with. I hope that all of the starters, except Kendrick Bourne, and if we don't trade Ramondre Stevenson, I hope all of the starters except them two lose their jobs. And Pop Douglas. Okay, I'll get into Pop Douglas. Pop Douglas, 7 targets, 5 catches, 25 yards. It seems like Pop Douglas is one of the worst blockers on the team, so that's why he's not been getting so many.
Well, he is like 5'10".
Exactly, and so I feel like he's a guy that you could have. I don't know if you consider a slot receiver a starter based on like the percentage of how much we use him, but Pop Douglas would be a really good third option that like you use as a trickery guy, a guy you do on jet sweeps. You give him a short screen pass once or twice a game, not 5 times in a game. And I don't think that he's ever going to turn into a number 1 type of guy or a number 2 guy, but I think
really
I don't get there. All right, tell me.
No, I just think. I mean, yesterday, he was being double-teamed, first off.
Well, because, Mike McDaniel's smart, and he, like, even though Bill Belichick doesn't know he's good.
But in a normal offense, let's say we happen to get Marvin Harrison Jr., Pop Douglas is not getting double-teamed.
Yeah.
Like, if you had any sort of offensive talent, he is not being double-teamed.
And I would not be pissed. I love Pop Douglas. I would not be pissed if he was our number 2 receiver. I'm not saying that, but
In blocking, though, like, I don't watch it a ton, but, like, do you think Tyreek Hill is a great run blocker?
Honestly, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are both very good blockers. This game, Jalen Waddle, I saw one big block he had where it's just he's giving effort. Yeah. And that's all you got to do as a wide receiver. Give effort and get your body in the way because you're not training in the offseason to block these linebackers and take a big hit. No, you just got to get in the way of them.
Slow them down.
They have great awareness, and they're committed to winning football. And Mike McDaniel has said, if you want to win games, everybody's got to block. It's got to be the receivers. It's got to make this entire scheme work. And he's got the buy-in. And I don't think that Pop Douglas can be trusted to hold those blocking assignments just yet. And if you go into the season as him as your number 2 next year or 3. That's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. But the offensive line needs to go, the quarterback needs to go, and we need a top receiver. And you want to keep the tight ends around, fine. Keep the tight ends. We got 3 serviceable tight ends, nothing that really jumps off the board. And so I think we go into next year and fully revamp. Another option that I have for the wide receiver 1 vacancy that we have in New England, T. Higgins and Michael Pittman this offseason are going into unrestricted free agency, both on teams that, I think the Colts they have the cap space, but do they really want to commit? He's probably going to bring about 15, 20 million because of his age and like what he's shown when he's healthy.
Yeah.
And so maybe a shorter term contract for him, but T. Higgins is definitely getting 5 years, 100 million. Like,
and he's gone.
And he's gone 100%.
Yeah.
They can't retain him.
No.
And so T. Higgins, this is how I can see New England managing getting him onto their team, because T. Higgins, he hasn't proven he can be a number 1 receiver, but he's looked good as the number 2. And so you throw money at that guy and take a chance to see if he can, be the focal point of an offense. If you don't take a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., if you decide to go to the quarterback, right, you take a Drake May, or you take freaking Caleb Williams if we end up getting the number 1 pick. You need to get them a serviceable wide receiver.
There's also no one's also, you could totally just go Marvin Harrison Jr. and sign him.
Yeah, and like I would be fine with that.
A lot of teams have 2 very good wide receivers.
When was the last time New England did that, though? And like,
it's not gonna. If it happens, Bill Belichick will not be the one deciding.
Okay, so I'm going off of like what potentially could happen as Bill Belichick is still your GM and head coach, because as the season goes on, I don't see that New England's going to make a change. Clearly, with the contract extension that was released,
but even at GM.
I don't think so. I think because they retained his contract for GM as well. It wasn't that they just signed him as a coach. It's 3 years to be the GM and head coach of the New England Patriots. If Bill Belichick goes out of his way to hire somebody else to fill that role, he's going to lose half of his contract, I believe.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to pay you to be a head coach for $25 million? No, we need to split that up a little bit. And so I think there's no chance that we get a new GM this year, which I know we've been pleading for, but it's not going to happen.
I mean, all I'm going to say about that, in January when Robert Kraft is looking down in his booth at an empty Gillette Stadium, maybe he'll change his mind.
And, maybe he'll change his mind, but does Robert Kraft have the balls to go? He obviously he's not getting any younger either. And he is probably at the twilight of his owning career, trying to, hand that over to Jonathan Kraft and him potentially being the new owner in a few years. And I think that Robert Kraft is going to, I've been comfortable with Bill Belichick here. We have good communication. I don't want to work on more communication with a new guy. It's too late, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying it's the right move, but I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. And we've seen it for the past 4 years here in New England post Brady.
All right.
Now we go to Celtics.
Oh, can I add my one thought on Mac?
Yeah.
You good?
Yep.
All right, so I just want to add one of my biggest takeaways from this week's game, which has it wasn't just because of this 1 week, but it is now proving to be impossible to win a game when Mac Jones throws at least one interception or he's not perfect altogether. He has no mental toughness. He has no bounce back ability. You look at what Tua did. He throws the pick to Kyle Duggar, right?
Mm-hmm.
He then goes and scores 2 touchdowns, gets field goal immediately after. So it's no unraveling and all of a sudden when you watch Mac Jones after he throws an interception, his mechanics just go out the window. He's turning around in the pocket, scrambling,
stepping,
collapsing.
Yeah.
He loses it. He can't move on past the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking and I was like, it feels like Mac Jones has thrown a lot of interceptions since he's been here. So I went back and I looked at the games where Mac Jones has thrown an interception, which has been 22 games.
Mm-hmm.
He's thrown a pick. He's thrown at least one interception in 22 games as a Patriot. They have won 6 of the games that he's thrown at least one interception. So there's zero bounce back ability. Now let me tell you,
and that doesn't even factor in bad fumbles, bad sacks.
Oh no, I didn't even look at fumbles.
Yeah. There's so much more that goes in his turnover.
But I'm looking at pure interceptions. So the 6 games. Let's go back to his rookie year. At Houston, that one game when he has one comeback win. Davis Mills did throw an interception, and it was a 4-win Houston team.
Mm-hmm.
We'll throw that one out the window. The next one, at Carolina, when Sam Darnold threw 3 interceptions. Okay, so the other quarterback stunk worse than you.
Yeah.
Then we go to the blowout in Atlanta in 2021. This was in the midst of that whole winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ryan threw 2 picks. Another terrible performance.
Mm-hmm.
Then last year at Pittsburgh, Mitch Trubisky's second career game with the Steelers. So he was still figuring it out.
Yeah.
He threw 2 picks.
He never figured it out.
No, he never did figure it out. Then at the end of last season, against the Jets, Zach Wilson threw 3 interceptions. And then also last season against Arizona when Kyler Murray tore his ACL in the first half. So the 6 wins that the Patriots did get when Mac Jones threw an interception, it's been incredibly worse quarterback play somehow on the other side against guys like Davis Mills, Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, Zach Wilson when he was bad, and then a guy tearing his ACL at the half. So you need crazy circumstances to happen to win a game when Mac Jones throws a pick.
Yeah, and you can't, the fact you can't even look back and say one game, oh, he had a bad pick. Josh Allen, he always has a bad pick, I feel like. Every single game I watch, it feels like, oh my God, that was horrible. Mm-hmm. Same thing as Mac Jones. But then the next drive, like you said with Tua, 3 plays later, bam, 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 down the field, touchdown. Mm-hmm. And he makes up for it that way. And so if you have a guy who can make plays like that, you live with the turnover, the 1 or 2 turnovers per game. If you're capable of making big touchdown plays whenever you need to. Mm-hmm. And Mac Jones, again, has not had, I don't even think, one singular drive where it's like quick plays down, unless it's like one lucky, remember that post that against Dallas that Kendrick Bourne caught?
The blown coverage by Trevon Diggs.
Yeah, of course, another blown coverage by Trevon Diggs.
Yeah.
And he ends up, making a play out of that. But that's the only play I can remember that was like a quick play, got us down the field and scored when we needed it, and it was pure luck. It wasn't Mac Jones. It wasn't Kendrick Bourne. It wasn't anybody on our team. It was Dallas messing up. So if we're going to structure our offense around other teams messing up, and Belichick just like thinks he's above everybody else. And
that worked with Brady.
Yeah, it worked with Brady when you have the greatest quarterback of all time. 100%. And I don't blame Belichick for thinking that that's a strategy that's going to work because he's seen it before. And he now has had two different quarterbacks, I'll say, in general. Mac Jones, Cam Newton, run that offense since Brady left. And yeah, we have not had that type of guy that can just make a play when you need it most.
No.
And so...
And let me just add one more thing. Like, turnovers in the game of football are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to overcome those. He can't.
Mm-hmm.
He can't. It's in the stats.
Yeah.
He can't. And the 2 wins they have this season were the 2 games where he didn't throw a pick.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to be perfect.
And in those 2 games that we both analyzed, we go into that saying, Mac, you had a great fucking game today.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like you were commanding the offense perfectly. And it's because he had no turnovers.
Yeah.
And so if that's what's like, because you watch the other guys and you're like waiting for Josh Allen to throw 4 touchdowns in a game, 5 touchdowns in a game. And same thing with Patrick Mahomes, 4 to 5 touchdowns in a game. We're not asking Mac Jones to go out and do that.
Nope.
And if he did do that, I would fucking have an aneurysm because it's so unexpected.
Yeah.
But you live with the picks with those guys who can give you 45, 50 touchdowns a year. A guy that's going to give you a max of 25 touchdowns, the picks need to be below 8. They need to be 7, 6, 5. You need to be throwing less picks in every game than you're throwing in other games.
What kept a guy like Alex Smith in the league?
Consistency, not turning over the ball, getting the
game
ball,
manager,
getting the ball to his open receivers, and but he did have the benefit of being in an Andy Reid offense during his prime in Kansas City.
He did, but I've never ever seen a game manager that's prone to throwing picks.
Yeah,
that's had success.
He's not. Can we get that label out of here? Mac Jones is not a game manager. He's a game ruiner.
Yeah,
and so he goes into these games and
he's a game wrecker.
He's
in the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And so we've been begging for the Patriots to get a game wrecker, and we got one.
We got one.
Fuck, dude, I gotta change those prayers up, man.
Let's be more specific here.
Yeah, and so Mac Jones, again, we hate to beat a dead. What's the fucking saying?
A dead horse.
A dead horse. Yeah, I hate to beat a dead horse. Yeah, a dead bush. Whatever you want to say.
Beat whatever.
But Mac Jones. But Mac Jones. Yeah, again. He is not the game manager that you drafted him to be, and the physical tools aren't evolving, and he's just, decreasing in value as we go year to year. And it's starting to see that Mac Jones's career outlook is about to be a journeyman who, gets a backup role, maybe Baker Mayfield type of role where he's the 32nd starting quarterback, and then maybe he has a good, year.
I see the Sam Darnold career arc.
You do?
Yeah.
And so it could go both ways, but I think Mac Jones will be in the NFL for the next 5-10 years, but I think it's going to be as a serviceable backup, and that is not a guy that you can commit a 5th-year extension, a long-term contract to, nothing.
Nope.
And so it's time to move on.
Don't buy your Mac Jones jerseys.
Don't buy your Mac Jones jerseys, and do not buy anybody's jerseys, because if anything good's going to happen, everybody is going to be gone. Your favorite players are going to be gone.
Go get one of those custom ones with your last name.
Yeah.
On. That's your safest bet at this point.
Honestly, you get one of those on and then go hop in the fucking game because we need you out there. All right, so going into the second half of this podcast, we're going to be talking about the 2-0 Boston Celtics.
About to be 3-0.
About to be 3-0. We're watching the game right behind you guys in Washington. Jaylen Brown is going off right now. 27 points in the first half. Unreal.
They're about to have 85 points at the half.
All right. First of all, can we talk about the fact that Kyle Kuzma right now, currently, is starting at center for the Washington Wizards?
That's a crime.
That is a horrible crime. He's averaging 7.5 rebounds this game. I fully expect, when I saw that, I was fully expecting Porzingis to have a big game, but it seems like Jaylen Brown's taking advantage of whatever Washington thinks that they can roll out here and try to compete with the best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
But 2-0, we got to win in New York. We got to win in Miami. You know, no bullshit. No, we blew a lead in New York for a little bit, but you know, we won that game. We wouldn't have won that game last year.
No, I wrote that down.
Yeah, and so we would not have won that game last year, and we did. We stayed composed, and Kristaps Porzingis, with everybody in the arena chanting, fuck you, he fucking nails the three to ice the game, and I fucking love watching this team play basketball. They are so exciting. The ball movement looks good. Right now they're up 30 fucking points, and I am, like, honestly, I go into these games now, like, before I'd be like, don't lose, please don't lose. But now I'm going into these games, like, expecting to win.
Who's dropping 30?
And who's dropping 30? And are we going to win by 20 or 30? And I know the season's going to be long, and we're going to have ups and downs, and there's going to be some problems and whatever. But right now it's looking good. Anthony, what are your first thoughts about the Celtics and their start this season?
I think, yeah, like you said, I don't think they win those 2 games last season. Especially that Heat team that always gives them trouble. They were able to overcome it the other night, and that's huge. My biggest takeaway is, despite, you know, talking about losing Marcus Smart and, like, all the leadership that he's brought, and bringing in these pieces has allowed the Celtics to win in different ways. Like, that first game in New York, Tatum and Porzingis, those were the guys. Then you look at the Miami game, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, like, those were the guys that were controlling the game. And to be able to go into different games and attack the matchups, and, you know, Tatum doesn't have to score 35.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to have, I mean, he can if he wants to, but, you know, Porzingis doesn't have to be playing 40 minutes and drop 30 points and hit 7 threes for us to win. Like, we're so deep that we can just, the matchups are there, and those guys are able to take advantage, and it doesn't have to be the same guy every night.
I totally agree with that, and I think that Jason Tatum's MVP push this season is going to be a force to be reckoned with, because if you got guys on the team like Porzingis, Brown, and Holiday that can step up on the offensive side when he's having a bad day, and he can, you know, when he's having a bad day in the past, we kind of just let him shoot out of it. You see those games every 5 games, he's gonna have a 4 for 19 or a 3 for 20, and it's gonna, you know, make his stats look a lot worse. But in those games, I don't feel like he's going to have to force anything anymore. He can start to think about the defensive side of the ball a little bit more now. You could see it in his activity on the defensive end. He was a man of his word when he was saying he was going for Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh yeah,
and so he was not lying. And I think if the Celtics can remain dominant at the top of this conference, I can't see anybody else that would pass Jason Tatum in MVP voting, because I think Luka right now and Jason Tatum are both primed to be the MVP, candidates going into later in this year.
Jokic,
and obviously you got to add Jokic in there too. But the one thing, I hate to say it, but the voters' fatigue with Jokic is going to be against him.
Happened to Giannis.
And they want new MVPs in the league. They want young MVPs in the league. I think the NBA is going to push for a Jason Tatum or a Luka Doncic this year to win, but Luka's team is questionable in Dallas, and if they're, you know, and a competitive conference too, if they're the 7th or 8th seed, that you can't give him the MVP unless he's putting up Westbrook numbers back, you know, when he won his MVP and they were the 6th seed. So that is a very promising thing to see, and I want to include Jason Tatum's muscle mass add this year is so key to this team. He is driving in, people are bouncing right off of him, and he's getting wide open layups. He's getting the foul calls that stars deserve, and he's going to take advantage of those spots at the line, and 2, now that he's one of the most efficient drivers in the NBA, that's just going to create more havoc that comes into the paint when he goes in, making him have more opportunities for playmaking, dishing out to those shooters, and the assist numbers are going to go up. I hope the turnovers go down, and I think that we're in store for Jason Tatum's, like, first prime, like, full-out superstar season.
That game in New York, I've never seen him play that way.
No.
Like, he was so determined to get inside, and he was just doing it whichever way he wanted. Like, sometimes I think Tatum in the past has been way too just, you know, passive and sitting out on the three-point line and just taking threes when he is so good driving to the basket.
Yeah.
He cannot be stopped.
Yeah.
So, you know, seeing him just push it and get inside on a consistent basis in that game, that was huge.
And one of the biggest negatives that I've said about Jason Tatum in the past few years, it seems like he settles in pick and roll for a deep contested three sometimes, or a forced three when it's not his night, he's not hitting, and he's still taking 8 or 9 threes, and those misses are most likely going to be going down, just because I think that Porzingis coming off of that pop gives him a little bit more of a trust in that he can dish it to Porzingis and he's going to hit the shot. Last year, if you give Horford the ball on a pick and pop, it really wasn't an efficient three-point shot for him, but, he's obviously one of the best open three-point shooters in the league. But when he's moving, it doesn't seem like the mechanics are all there. He's not that type of guy that
he wasn't a natural three-point shooter.
Yeah, exactly. And Kristaps Porzingis is the best pure shooter on this team. Yes. And so you get him the ball at the high post, and Tatum now has a number 2 option that works well with him. And I'm loving what I see. Something that I don't like, and I think could be a problem later on this year. I know Jaylen Brown's had a pretty good start to the season. The first game wasn't great, but against Miami, 27 points, 50% from the field, and obviously in this game he's going off right now. And I had a lot of concerns about how the Celtics were going to integrate him into this offense. I feel like he was going to have the most problems finding a role within this offense, because obviously Tatum's going to be our primary ball handler, and he's going to be making the decisions in the pick and roll, and Drew Holiday also is on this team, and he's going to be doing the same thing. And I think, I was scared that Brown was going to end up turning into the corner guy, into a guy that's just standing in the corner, where that is not where he's used best.
Yeah.
He's best when he is off the dribble, off a weak closeout, coming in and scoring, driving to the basket. I think if he takes advantage of being able to be a great back cutter, that is going to be huge for this team. And if not, and he's just in the corner and we're paying him $50 million a year to sit in the corner, there's going to be people talking as the offseason goes about, could we trade Jaylen Brown for a guy that can just sit there and shoot? And I don't want to hear that. So I just want Jaylen Brown to be included in the offense. I want him to be happy, and I hope
I want to see him catch balls off the wing and just drive, because he is so good.
He's
when he
a
drives.
monster, dude.
Yep.
And so that's 100% the only big chemistry issue that I could see happening for the Celtics. But now that he's paid, I think that he's gonna sit back and be like, I'll take $50 million to sit in the corner and
win.
Attack drives and win. Yeah. So, and he says he wanted to win freaking 12 fucking titles. So you gotta start with one.
Let's get going. Quickly, I just want to add my one concern. Based off the first 2 games, and kind of going back to last year, I think Missoula gets a little stingy with his rotations, especially in the regular season. I don't want to see 35 minutes a night for Porzingis.
No, you need that guy rested.
I don't want Tatum and Brown to be running to the ground. We have guys like Lamar Stevens and O'Shea Brissett, and I know our backup big, it's a little shaky with Cornette, but I don't want to run those guys into the ground. But going off of that, the guys that have played, like Pritchard and Horford and some minutes from Hauser, they need to step up the production a little bit. They're averaging 10 points per game in bench scoring.
Can't do that
for the first 2 games, which I know that those were 2 tough games against 2 good teams, and it was close. I'm sure they're going to rack up the bench points tonight. They're up by 30. But in big games in the regular season, I want Missoula to trust the bench a little bit more.
And I fully agree, but the bench ought to earn the trust first,
yes.
I believe. And so Missoula's not just going to throw a guy out there and give him minutes because Porzingis needs a little bit of time. In game mode, he's thinking about, how do I win? How do I win? So if you got Luke Cornette, guarding the pick and roll in drop coverage against Emmanuel Quickly, and he's hitting 3 threes just right off the pick and roll, easy money. He's not even contesting the shot. You can't watch that and be like, okay, leave him in there, whatever. I want to save Porzingis for the play. No, it's game 1. You got to get Porzingis out there. Cornette looked lost out there against the Knicks.
He did.
So that's also one of my big concerns going off of what you said. I'm very concerned about the bench depth at the big man position. And we need to find a guy that's serviceable and can fit that defensive-minded, rebounding mindset, and just a guy that's fighting to win, a guy that wants to win, but isn't going to take up a lot of space on the offensive side and not cost a lot of money. So I have 3 people that I'm looking for Brad Stevens to end up trying to trade for at one point in the season. I got Dwight Powell, Daniel Gafford, and Moritz Wagner. All three of them are rated in the top 15 in player efficiency rating for centers this season, and I don't think that a lot of people are going to be clamoring for these guys. It's not like they're going to come into like any other situation and be able to provide what they could provide for us. And so, yeah, if the Mavs don't have a good season, obviously the Wizards and the Magic are, they've been at the bottom of the conference for a while, but the Magic are looking a little bit better this year. And I think that those are three guys that you get closer to the middle of the season, you start to see the effects of starting Porzingis and Horford for that much time.
Yeah.
And you're like, crap, I need a guy that can come in and provide minutes on days we're resting Porzingis, we're resting Horford. And yeah, all three of those guys, serviceable options who aren't going to draw a lot of attention on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, serviceable, get rebounds, and get out of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Drew Holiday's way, and just let them score. Let Derek White too. Let them all score and just set screens at the top. That's all we need.
Yep.
And so that's my biggest concern. 100%. You have something else to add? Or
no,
okay.
I'm good.
So let's go into the next 3 games for Boston. Right now, they're currently playing Washington. They're up huge. That's
my phone's gonna die in the next couple minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it fast.
Okay.
I believe the Celtics are gonna go 2-1 over this next week. We got Washington. We're up 30 against them. That's I hope a win. That's gonna be a major clip if they end up coming back. But we got Boston versus Indy and Boston versus Brooklyn coming up this week. Again, expect them to go 2-1. I could see Indy or Brooklyn squeaking out a game.
Indy's putting up a ton of points.
Yeah, and Indy is scary. They're one of those teams that's like, I don't think a lot of people were giving a lot of attention to going into this season, me included. But after watching them and watching Aaron Nesmith out there 26 points, he reposted that photo of him saying like, there was a photo saying like Brogdon just got traded for a bag of chips, and then he posted back at it, and I love that. I love Aaron Nesmith. I love any former Celtic who's out there doing his thing, and I was high on Aaron Nesmith when we drafted him. It didn't look great for us. Wasn't a great.
He just needed minutes.
He needed minutes on a middling team to feel it out and get that rhythm, and he's found a rhythm in Indy. They got a good guy. I feel like it was a win for them in the end, getting rid of that Brogdon, and it was a win for us too because we ended up trading Brogdon for Drew Holiday, and now we have championship aspirations. It worked out for everybody. Yeah, a trade does not need to be one-sided every single time.
R.I.P. Malik Fitz though, he was awesome. I do miss his celebrations.
Yeah, his clapping, his 12 claps a game. Oh, oh God! What the fuck?
We're gonna leave that one in. Took down the set.
Anthony is pissed off that we lost Malik Fitz. He's throwing a fit. But, Anthony, any last opinions on the Celtics here going into these games against Brooklyn and Indy? What are you looking for them to attack against them? And what do you think the Celtics could possibly mess up this week? And so we're going to the next podcast and be like, ooh.
I think one thing would be, in the years past, it seems like they've lost focus at times.
Okay.
And I think these middling teams against it's not going to be on national TV. Indy, Brooklyn, those are games where maybe you don't get up for, and it's look what we just did to Washington.
Yeah.
We can walk in here with our eyes closed and we'll beat these guys.
Yeah.
And then you get upset, and that's the only thing that worries about me, that I get worried about with them. But it seems like the culture on this team is different. The end game execution has been great so far in 2 games, which has not been the case the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe that mentality of taking games off hopefully has kind of gone away with that.
Lastly, I got one last question for you.
Okay.
Do you think that Kristaps Porzingis taking that second scoring option away from Jaylen Brown, say Kristaps Porzingis is seeing a usage rate a little bit higher than Jaylen Brown, do you think that brings any concerns to the Celtics team? Because it could cause locker room problems. We've seen Jaylen Brown be upset with the secondary role. He's talked about it last year at the All-Star game. I've done my time. I gave up so much to be in this role, blah, blah, blah. And he seemed like he was upset about his role last year. But getting that $300 million contract, now coming into this season where he's probably the third option, I'm not going to lie. And do you think that that's going to be a problem?
I don't think so, because you look at nights like this, he's taken the most shots on the team.
Yeah.
I think Porzingis is the natural second best, scorer on the team just because of the way that he can play off of both Tatum and Brown.
And the way the modern offense works today, too.
Yes. So, just as equally as Tatum and Porzingis play off each other, I think Brown and Porzingis can play off each other, too. It's based on the matchups. And I think there's going to be nights when Tatum has 30, and like tonight, there's going to be nights when Brown has 30, and there's going to be nights when Porzingis has 30. So, I think it's just going to be, Brown's got to just take it and be like, you're the highest paid player in the league. Like, be happy with the money you got. You're on a winning team. Life could be a lot worse for you.
Life could definitely be a lot worse, but it's hard to get that into NBA players' heads sometimes.
Is.
You go your entire career, being the guy, high school, college, come to the NBA, they say play a role, and Jaylen Brown's shown to be a star, and we're asking him to play a little bit of a lesser role this year.
Yep.
But honestly, he's a stand-up dude. No other guy that I'd want on my team than Jaylen Brown, and so I fully expect him to be committed to winning and not being a problem in the locker room this season. And
I agree.
Let's go Celtics.
Also,
Kristaps Porzingis is a shot blocker.
He is.
We did not lose our shot blocker because of Rob Williams. That is not a narrative that I want to keep seeing spread around. Kristaps Porzingis is a better rim protector than Robert Williams, a better shooter than Robert Williams, and I think he fits this team better than Robert Williams. So, Celtics fans, we got a lot to look forward to. Patriots fans, maybe by March we'll be a little bit more excited.
Patriots fans hibernate until March.
Yes, exactly. And become basketball fans because it's a fun sport to watch sometimes when they're not fucking stopping the play every 10 seconds.
Or watch the Bruins. They're pretty good too.
Fuck hockey. And we'll see you guys next week. We're here every single Wednesday, Thursday, whenever I fucking end up editing the podcast, whenever it gets out. But it's going to get out to you guys.
Yep.
And I hope you enjoy it. And let's hope.
Welcome to our Spotify listeners as well.
Exactly. If you have Spotify and you've been dying for us to post on Spotify, we are there now. And coming to Apple Music too. So thank you for listening. Next week, hopefully we have some more positive aspects in the Patriots, and hopefully the Celtics are 3-0, 5-0 going into the next week. And we have some fun things to talk about. Maybe even some drama to talk about in New England if there's a QB switch. So thank you for watching again.